and asked for a picture to be taken together, and she high-fived me. Because I passed that bill on her amendment, because we forgot to file the amendment bills. And I couldn't get it through committee because I opposed her bill. But I did pass it with her help and with her blessing. And so I work with everybody based on the Constitution. I also oppose everybody when I believe they violated based on the Constitution. So I welcome people to organize, but I think we need to just work with them when they're right, oppose them when they're wrong.
Yeah, this has been covered well. Again, those caucuses are voluntary groups they join. They're not official state organizations or anything like that. They don't have a redneck caucus, or I would be in that one, but we don't have one of those. But as long as we have a Tea Party caucus that Dave and I are involved in, a number of different groups people gather on because they're important to them. But it's been well said. We're Americans, and we're thankful that out of many one, we've become, again, not a tossed salad, but a melting pot. And we should look at issues that way, and that's what we try to do. So yes, those organizations exist. I'm not a member, but again, they can do what they want to do. I'm going to represent everybody.
I just want to ask a question. What would happen if we had a white caucus and we named it that? What would happen? The place would melt down. And you know what? It's just wrong. It's just wrong. Let's just call it a caucus and let's just all be a part of it. If you've got to break it down into race, then there's a problem.
Okay, Brian, I'm going to combine two thoughts here. It says, I'm trying to figure out which one I want to read first. I'll go with this one. Explain how you're supportive of the Texas Department of Transportation, the Northeast Texas Regional Mobility Authority, and other entities to ensure major highway projects such as US 69 Lindale Relief Route at Toll 49, the East Texas Hourglass from Tyler to Marshall, and the Interstate 69, or adding additional lanes to IH-20, will be funded in our area. The second thought of this is the legislature recently punted the responsibility to fund road repairs and water supply projects to a voter approval through a constitutional amendment. Is this a lack of courage by the Texas House and Senate to not tackle these issues in funding themselves? So two thoughts.
Thanks. Great question. Many times as conservatives, those of us in this room and people who are like-minded, we get upset when the government's doing so many things it's not supposed to be doing. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Spending money on silly stuff that's not their job. But at the same time, something the government is supposed to be doing, funding transportation, it's not getting done. So what are we doing about transportation funding? A couple of things. Many folks have called for new taxes for transportation, for increasing taxes. And what I've told them is, let's take the money you're already sending us, like the gas tax. Everybody has the impression the gas tax goes for roads, but for years, there have been diversions. The gas tax has been going to other things. So finally, and again, on the Appropriations Committee, I've helped do this, finally now the gas tax is going for roads like it's supposed to. And that's part of the problem. Also, speaking of the constitutional amendments, there are certain things that we can't do without voter approval. And so we did a couple of things last time. One is taking money from the rainy day fund. That's our savings account. That's our emergency account. Our founders, the guys who put that rainy day fund, were very smart. Because if you put a big pile of money and you put a bunch of politicians, the money's going to get spent, right? So to spend that rainy day fund, it requires a higher level. It requires a 2/3 vote to spend it for certain things. So that's part of the reason that's there. And so that's in the Constitution. So to spend that rainy day fund money on roads, we were required to amend the Constitution and get voter approval. My answer on funding transportation is, let's take the money that you're already sending us and let's put it where we said it was going to go. And once we do that, we'll see if we still need more money for transportation. But as the economy grows, as our population grows, we really shouldn't need to raise taxes, right? Because more people are coming here, more people are paying taxes. If the system's working like it's supposed to, we ought to be able to get the job done with the money you gave us. It's just a matter of putting the money where it belongs. So that's what I'm in favor of on transportation funding. Thank you.
Well, I tell you what I would like to see. If you've been to Dallas lately, down to Houston, you've probably taken the toll road, which I always insist on taking the side road. And I'd like to see that be a requirement. They want to put toll roads in. The first requirement is there needs to be an alternate route. The other thing, as far as toll roads, as far as I'm concerned, is they ought to be built by Texans.
Yeah.
They ought not be built by foreign companies. And what we should be doing is, if you want it to be a toll road, fine, put it in. But there should be a requirement that as soon as it's paid for, the toll goes away. A real provision for that. But there ought to be Texans out there building that. Now look what we'd do if we had Texans building it. How many people do you think we'd get off the welfare rolls if we could get them out there building our roads? Instead of taking money out of the system and taking money out of your pocket, they'd be helping to put something back in there. You know what? They'd have some pride too, because they have a job. So I advocate, look, let's look at the transportation budget and let's quit moving money around from place to place. Transportation, our roads need to be dealt with. Look, we know the importance of it. But we're getting more and more toward this toll road thing. Let's have them. But let's us build them, kick the foreign companies out, let's utilize it, we make the money out of it and off of it. We put Texans to work. That's what Texans do. Texans put other Texans to work. Thank you.
We have made some progress, not enough, in funding transportation, but we have to realize that an agency that is so huge that can find $1 billion and then lose $1 billion is perhaps way beyond its capacity really to function efficiently. And so perhaps we should focus what it's doing. I do think we should do more locally, but even there we need to be really careful. I think the state should focus on our interstates. I'm concerned about I-20 becoming like I-35. If we don't do something soon, it will. We have $1 billion of corporate welfare that we're $600 million of it we're funding with debt. I would rather see those funds, not the debt portion, but at least the rest, go towards roads. Also, an idea that Representative Schaefer from Tyler has proposed, some of these economic development funds that come from your communities. There's almost $1 billion that have been now that have not been spent for anything, allowing local communities to voluntarily decide for those monies to be used for infrastructure, and particularly roads. It could also be used for other type of infrastructure. And then with respect to water, we have a rich resource here, rich lands that are dependent upon our great rainfall. The state shouldn't be dictating that Dallas-Fort Worth can take our lands to build a project here. And I fought for that very hard, to require consent. You're going to use state monies to build a water project in another district.
We'll start wrapping this up. We've got about 10, 15 minutes left, and we'll have our closing statements. But next question will be started out with David. It says, do you support the Convention of States idea endorsed by Governor Abbott, which would impose fiscal restraints on federal government, limit the power and jurisdiction of federal government, and limit the terms of office of federal officials and members of Congress?
I think Article 5 Convention is a legitimate constitutional remedy to out-of-control federal government. And I do think the amendments that Governor Abbott has proposed are very worthy of considering, particularly for things that wholly happen within a state. Shouldn't be interpreted as breaking the Interstate Commerce Code, or not even having commerce, as in the case of one instance they ruled that was violating the Commerce Clause. And I do think those are things we need to deal with. But I have a greater concern. We have a good Constitution, but we're not using it. We have good amendments, but we're not following them. For instance, in this session, we passed a retroactive bill for the city of Fort Worth, or the Major Events Fund. They missed the deadline for this corporate welfare program. And so a bill was proposed to fix it. And the comptroller wrote about it, said the only way you can fix it is to do it retroactively. But our Constitution, the state and federal constitutions, both prohibit passing ex post facto laws, laws that are retroactive or impair contracts. And I opposed it, and others like it. But it went ahead and passed. The problem is not so much our Constitution and what's in it. The problem is the people that are not upholding their oath. That is a bigger issue. I'm concerned not only with the people we send there to change it, I'm concerned about us upholding our legislative rules and our Constitution right now. We're not doing it, and we should.
Yes, I would support it, and I've said that long before the governor came out and supported the Article 5 convention. This is not a radical idea, okay? This is something the founders gave us, a tool to use. I know, I hear people sometimes saying, oh, what a radical thing. What a radical thing, Convention of the States. But on the same token, they'll say, oh, I support gun rights. I support First Amendment. I support the Constitution. You don't get to have it both ways. Either you support the Constitution completely, or you don't. You don't get to pick and choose Obama style. The Convention of the States is a tool. Now, I will agree, and I said for a long time, you need to be careful. There are checks and balances in there, but my biggest concern are the rhinos. My biggest concern are those liberals who have run as Republicans and are in office and claim to be conservatives. The Convention of the States is going to happen. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next year, it may not be next decade, but it's coming, sooner or later. We need to be prepared for it. One, we need to clean out our party and make sure we've got good, sound conservatives in there before that happens. The other thing we have to do is make sure that we have all our ducks in a row before we go down that road. But it is a tool that the founders gave us to take back the powers from someone like Obama, who could care less about the Constitution. And David's right. He's right in some sense there. How are you going to enforce it? Well, that's what the Convention of the States is going to do. The Convention of the States are going to do exactly that. And I would support it. But we better be careful. It's necessary and it's going to happen sooner or later.
As you guys know, our founders gave us two methods for amending the Constitution, right? We've amended the Constitution 27 times, and each time has been using the other method, the method where Congress proposes amendments and then they're ratified by the states, by the people. That's the only method we've ever used. The convention is a tool they've given us, but I think some folks in here will recall that as conservatives in America, the conventional thought has been a convention of the states is a tool, is something we should look at very seriously, because once a convention is called, there's really no way to control what comes out of it. As you'll recall, we got our Constitution from a convention that was called to amend the Articles of Confederation. Now, we liked the Constitution they came up with, but that was more than they were authorized to do at the time. So it's something we have to keep in mind. It's an important tool, and we're in a crisis. We have to do everything we can to push back against the feds. And so here's what I think one solution would be. We have to put strict limits on the people we send as delegates to a convention. What do I mean by that? If we in Texas say, we're going to send you to represent us, and we want you to vote for a balanced budget amendment, and those are your instructions. We want to make sure that when you get there, you don't do anything else. You don't vote for something we didn't ask you to vote for. And different states have come up with different ideas, because we can tell them no, we can tell them it's void, but once they put that amendment out there, we can't pull it back. So the state of Indiana has said, we're going to put strict limits on our delegates. We're going to tell our delegates, if we send you to vote on a particular amendment, and you vote for something beyond that, we're going to lock you up. That's right, criminal penalties. Don't we agree our Constitution is serious enough? We should hold these folks accountable. So my position has been, if we can put criminal penalties on any delegates, then we need to look at a convention of states. But until we can do that, we can't. And so this last legislative session, the bill that was going to limit the delegates had criminal penalties, and they were taken out. So based on that, I had to vote no. David and I both voted no. Let's do it. Let's be cautious in it. We have a great Constitution. Let's guard it jealously and don't throw it away.
There's an ongoing argument about that, and I know we've argued about it several times. Most of the constitutional scholars say that the state houses, okay, that the state legislatures can limit the scope of the Constitutional Convention. Now, we need to clarify that. I'll agree with my friends up here that, yeah, we need to know that before we go down that road. But also remember that it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. So there are checks and balances there.
Go ahead, stay on up there, Mike. We'll ask this last question, then we'll have closing comments.
Okay, make it an easy one. I'm getting tired.
Yeah, this is going to be an easy one. Right up your alley. It says, how do we attract jobs? Do we use bait? And that bait being the what Representative Simpson refers to as the corporate welfare in the governor's office.
I think we offer them a free politician to use as a pinata. I'm just kidding, guys. Don't get upset. It's just a joke. No, I don't think we need to give corporate welfare, but there are a lot of things we can do. You look at the way the taxes are. When I built my funeral home, one of the things they did, they assessed me about 50% more than what it cost me to build the funeral home. So what they're doing is they come out and they beat us over the head with a big tax bill. What I'd like to do is, I would like to go to the counties and to the cities, the economic development committees, and say, look, what can you offer? What's something that you can say, okay, we'll reduce your taxes a little bit here. If you'll come in and take this rundown motel and you refurbish it, and we know they're an eyesore, a lot of things like that around the state, and they refurbish it on their own dollar, we give them a little bit of a tax break, because face it, we're not getting anything from them now. So if we let that company come in here, open that up, turn it into something that's not an eyesore, something that's a money maker, now we've got revenue going in the pot from something we didn't have before. And now we're going to have something that's going to be a source, it's going to be a long-term source. So I think what we have to do is we have to be business friendly to start with. We don't want to, hey, I don't want to do corporate welfare. And I've seen economic committees that they give money. In my area, there's several of them that they gave money 3 and 4 times, and these people went out of business. So your tax dollars were wasted. I don't want to see that. I want to see people who have something to put in. They have an expense to come here. You know, a big company is going to up and bring a big corporation here to put our kids to work. They're going to spend a lot of money. And I'm not opposed to saying, okay, you're going to spend that money, we'll do our part. We'll give you a tax break for X amount of time. Then you're going to start paying your full tax on that. That's what I would do. Thank you.
I believe the best way to attract businesses is to get government out of the way, to have low regulations, have a broad-based low tax, and to really limit government. Who is going to pay the $18 trillion of federal debt back? There's no plan to do that. And we are increasing our own debt here in this state. And that's one of the reasons why I've opposed the increase in spending year after year in our state budget. We've got to say no. We have to live within our means like we do when we make decisions around our kitchen table. But it's going to take saying no. And I've said no to corporate welfare every chance I could get. Even beginning my first session when my political consultant, not consultant, a volunteer, Ryan Molden, many of you know, said don't do it. But it is an issue now, and they talk about it now. We've got to shine a light on it. Government should not pick winners and losers. And there was an amendment in this budget that I opposed, not only the budget, but the amendment. Representative Otto brought an amendment to his amendment right off the bat. and it was for more corporate welfare. I believe it was for film and music marketing. I opposed it. I'm the only one, to use someone else's language, to oppose it. We have got to stand against the increase of government spending. We've got to focus on simply when you harm your neighbor. Provide a level playing field with justice and get out of the way. It's individuals, families, and businesses that have made this country great. It's not big government. Big government is going to ruin this nation. And it's going to take people of courage and guts to stand up and oppose the spending.
There's a magazine called Site Selection Magazine. And they keep track of when businesses go from one state to another, or when they choose where they're going to put their new business. And the good news is, Texas is doing well. Some of us recall back in 2011, it was a tough budget year, the money was tight, and so all the big states were looking at shortfalls, and Illinois and California, all those big states raised taxes. In the state of Illinois, they raised their corporate income tax and their personal income tax. And you may remember Governor Perry, he then wrote letters to all these big companies in those states saying, hey, Illinois, they're raising your taxes, come to Texas. We're not going to do that to you here. You know, it worked. Caterpillar has moved a bunch of their operations here. Toyota has left California to come here. What we're doing is working. Now, we've got a long way to go, but what Texas is doing is working. People are moving here because this is where the jobs are. This is where the opportunities are. Yeah, many of us have been to California. It's a beautiful place, wonderful climate, really nice people, but the politicians there have about ruined California with taxes and with regulations. So we've got to keep doing what we've been doing. For economic development, let's be smart about it. If we can offer a tax break or an incentive to a company that's going to come and they're going to provide real jobs, we should do that. How many of us know that a good job is better than any government program we can think of? We know those jobs are what we're looking for. So yes, let's don't be stupid about it. Let's don't throw money away. Let's don't do crony capitalism or corporate welfare. But if there's a way that we can use tax incentives and enterprise zones, any of those tools to encourage those companies to come here and hire people and build, we should do it. We should keep doing what we're doing because right now we're winning. Jobs are coming here. Let's just keep doing it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before we move into our closing remarks, I want to thank each and every one of you for participating and asking so many good questions tonight. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get through all of them. I have probably close to a dozen left from various submissions. So thank you very much for your questions, your interest, for being here. Let's thank our panelists for the debate tonight. Mike, did you have something you wanted to say before we
closing announcements?
Yeah, you make your closing announcements, and then we'll have them do their closing remarks and adjourn, I think. But I wanted Jeremiah to pick a number between 1 and 15, and you got a number? Okay. Brian, I'll ask you numbers, you guys. Gentlemen?
10.
David?
1. 6.
Who's closest? Who's second closest? Same order, I guess we did that. Okay.
So what's that mean?
I was going to have you draw again, but anyway. Okay, so same order as they opened. Okay. Go ahead, Brian. You go first.
Okay.
You were closest. We'll let you go first. You may have wanted to go last, but we'll let you go first.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Thanks again. I said at the beginning, but I want to stress this to you. Thank you guys for doing this. Everybody that worked so hard to put this together, and the folks who stayed for the whole thing and put up with all this, man. Wow, you guys, thank you. There's other places you could have been, different things you could be doing now. So thanks for this. This is a conservative area. We're thankful for that. And you're finding a lot of the answers are similar coming from each of the candidates. And that makes sense because we all share a lot of the same values. So again, the issues that I want to focus on, that I continue to talk about because they're so important, doing something to stop Obamacare, not giving up on Obamacare. It's affecting more of us. It's going to continue to. The border. We can't talk enough about the border and the crisis we have with an open, porous border from a money standpoint, from an economic development standpoint, and then, of course, our religious freedom. More and more, that's the big fight we have with the feds. And it's a fight that we're not going to be able to give up on. Texas is doing her part. And let me mention one more thing that I was involved with as a lawyer. Did I mention I'm a lawyer? That's come up once or twice. So I told you about suing the EPA. Let me tell you one more. I was so proud to get to do this. Over in Wood County where I live, our commissioners court voted to put "In God We Trust" in the courthouse. Many of our county courts have done this. Our police are doing this now. And sure enough, we got sued. Somebody sued the county. They said, you can't have "In God We Trust" in the courthouse. You know, I've never been prouder as a lawyer than when I got to sign my name on that suit, representing Wood County, defending "In God We Trust." We won that case, and "In God We Trust" is still right there on the courthouse, right where it ought to be. And I'm thankful for that. Fights like that are reported to us. Those are the things we try to work on. We try to make a difference on those things. So look at our records, yes. Look at the endorsements, groups that you support, the groups that you line up with. We're just going to ask you to continue to be involved in the process. Please pray for us. We want to do a good job in this campaign, and if you see fit, we want to do a good job representing you in the Senate. Thank you guys for being here tonight.
For 20 years while I served in the military, I looked myself in the mirror every day and I said, today, I'm prepared to give my life for the American people. And now that I've been retired for 20 years, nothing's changed. I got involved with this race for a reason. It's not because I don't like these guys, because I do. But we have some philosophical differences. We have some political differences. I got in this race because I was concerned about jobs, taxes, private property rights, water. We didn't hear a lot about water tonight, but you know, Dallas doesn't have a water problem, they have a pipe problem. They got millions of breaks in the pipes. Not long ago, they had them fixed 415 breaks. And in those 415 breaks out of millions, they saved 2 billion gallons of water. Wouldn't you think by now somebody, instead of even talking about Marvin Nichols coming in, you would have thought that somebody would have said, fix your pipes. But in good politician fashion, it's easier to throw money at something. And then I mentioned it costs 30% less to fix the pipes than to put the lake in. I believe in private property rights. I believe in doing the right thing. Throughout this campaign, I've heard a lot about people talking about their consultants. Would you be surprised if I told you I have 2 consultants? One is my Lord and Savior, and the other one is my conscience. I don't need anybody to tell me what to say. I don't need anybody to tell me what I need to believe politically. I'll lay my head down on my pillow every night, and I know that I've done the right thing. In this race, the one thing I want you to know is that I will never lie to you, I will never deceive you, and I will always put you first. That is my promise. So help me God. My name is Mike Lee, and I appreciate you coming out and listening to us and watch us pick on each other a little bit. Thank you.
My name is David Simpson, and I still believe in liberty and limited government. I'm a constitutional, conservative Republican. I do invite you to look at my record and my votes. I'm grateful for the record that I have and the staff that have supported me, that we've sought to read every bill that comes before us, and especially in committee and on the floor. Our problem today is not so much knowing what to do, it's having the courage to do it. I'm the only candidate that has published a written platform. You can look at our record, at least Representative Hughes and myself, on the state's website. But I've published my platform, I've given it to many of you, of what I want to do, what the positions I hold, and where I want to go on the important issues, and we've talked about many of them. I'd encourage you to look. There is a reason why the lobby and certain people, including the Lieutenant Governor, do not want me coming back to Austin. Because I've shined a light in the Texas House. I've worked with the leadership where they've been right, but I've exposed them where they've been wrong. When the Supreme Court made the wrong decision with respect to marriage, you can say 2 + 2 is 4, or is 5, or 3. Engineers know you can do that, but you don't try to build a bridge that way. Just because they made that wrong decision doesn't mean we can make expenditures here in the state of Texas for same-sex marriages. And I called for the governor to call a special session to deal with that. And I brought attention to the fact that 2 state agencies were paying same-sex benefits. And I got a call for exposing the acquiescence of the leadership of our state and Dan Patrick. That's one reason why he's changed his mind and gotten involved in this race and is supporting my opponent. I appreciate your opportunity to speak with you tonight. I covet your prayers. I welcome your input. I'd like to have your vote. Thank you.